3 retirements that we received for the January board meeting. The first was Dale to Groton Heights. Dale has been driving bus for us since 2013, and so we sure appreciate Dale's service to the district. Mark Miller is custodian at Hospers Elementary, and Mark has served in that role for 28 years. And so, you know, we had a maintenance team meeting this morning, and Mark was able to share his excitement for moving on. But like most of us, he said kind of mixed emotions, because he's put a lot of his heart and soul into that role. And then Diane Vanderplug, and Diane has been serving at Hospers Elementary since 1986. So Diane's been serving for 35 years, and holy cow, has she done a great job during that time. So certainly leave a hole, all these guys, but we're very thankful for their service and for what they've given for students and for families in MOC-Floyd Valley. Earlier in the fall, we were in need of some cleaning at the high school, and Bob and Nancy Van Zee have been doing that since November, and they were on the board meeting to be approved this month. And then the other person that we hired was actually Delaney Niemeyer. Delaney's going to be coaching 7th grade softball for us this summer. Delaney is an alum from here and was an outstanding softball player for us for the Lady Dutch. A couple that I would want to mention, in November the board approved the requirement for those who wanted to go into remote learning to have a medical reason for that and medical documentation. We held off on implementing that because we kind of went through a surge in November. Starting with the new semester, January 4th, we've actually, that is required. If someone wants to move into remote learning, they would need to go through a medical process for that. Other than that, things haven't changed significantly. We're still working really hard to try and make sure that we're taking care of cleaning surfaces and hygiene and doing all the mitigation things that we can. Still utilizing the theater and trying to create the spaces that we can. The one change, the governor continually is providing us with updates as far as public health proclamations. The most recent public health proclamation allowed us to alter our fan attendance at games, and so starting last Friday, we actually, as a Siouxland Conference, tried to coordinate and so we've increased the number of fans at events to 50% of the capacity in the gyms, and that'll look different obviously for different schools. We're fortunate enough to be able to have nearly 1,000 people that attend a game, and that actually is pretty good. Some people might ask, well, why don't you just open it up? But there are 2 things that were required by the governor, and we're all required to follow. One is everyone still needs to wear a mask or face covering during contests, and then the second thing is there is a requirement for 6 feet of social distancing between groups, and I know that's really hard for people to kind of comprehend. We're just so happy to be in this space, but we would ask that people try to adhere to that as much as possible. I can. The CAPS program is, we've been working for probably the last 4 or 5 years to try and develop a more problem-based, project-based, experience-based learning model for our students at the high school. And there's the Center for Advanced Professional Studies is an entity that has helped with those kinds of programs. Last year, a year ago, Mr. Mulder and I, with a bunch of educators from the area, went to the Blue Valley CAPS program in Kansas City and observed and just kind of took a tour. We've looked at the CAPS Cedar Valley program in Cedar Falls. We've looked at other models, and we really believe that this model is going to help us develop the kinds of experience we want for our students. This year the board committed to creating a position, and Grant Hegsted has actually stepped into that role this year half-time, and so Grant is helping us develop the CAPS program. This is going to be something in conjunction with Northwest AEA that MOC-Floyd Valley is really trying to kick off, but we're also trying to create a cohort with with other schools in the area. So Northwest AEA is going to help us with that. So really excited, and we're excited to be able to take a leadership role in bringing that to Northwest Iowa. Tabletop training, a year or so ago, school districts were required to create a large emergency response plan. And we had one in place, but it really pushed us to make sure we had everything covered. And a part of that was we did some tabletop training with local law enforcement, and they came in and they would provide us with a scenario. And when I say us, our servant leadership team, principals and assistant principal and Joel Bunt and myself, and we would work through what would our response be in these situations. And so we did that last year, and we did it again on January 6th. Officer Holstein, Officer Van Ravensway, Chief Potabaum, and Deputy Palama came and they just walked us through those situations. And it's just a way for us to make sure that we're prepared for emergencies and thinking through how we would handle things. So I can provide a little bit of clarity on that. Up until December 31st of this last year, the FFCRA, Families First Coronavirus Response Act, was in place, and that basically created additional leave for people who were impacted by COVID-19. That expired on December 31st, and so at that time our employees reverted back to the leaves that we've negotiated. And that should be sufficient for most people, but there is potential for someone who has a family. If, for example, if I had a young child and that child had to be quarantined for 14 days or was diagnosed with a COVID-related illness and I needed to stay home, I would have to use, and I would still have to use my personal time or my family medical leave, but that would probably not take me through that amount of time. And so what we've done is basically the board has approved allowing staff members to utilize their personal sick days to cover those days so that they would not have to take unpaid leave.